Why would anyone pay $69 million for a JPEG and a hyperlink?
Anything you got to say about NFTs?
I think they're the future. I think they're gonna take. I'm high, but
the tail wags the dog for buying like a pudgy penguin.
Why don't you go look at some non-fungible titties, nerd?
Welcome, my degenerates. The rest of your life starts right now on NFT Mania, the no bullshit approach to all NFT markets. Any JPEG that's overpriced, any new NFT technology, we will cover it here because I reached out to the people I know who know this stuff better than I do. This show's going to be kind of next level from our last one. I'm just going to basically hand it off to these guys and let them tell me what's going on in the world. Our first guest, of course, is Cryptomancer Michael Lockey. How you doing, Michael?
Very good, Tony. Excited to get into all these blue chips today.
Absolutely. And, of course, my longtime compatriot, Brett Richey. Brett, thanks for getting a haircut. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Thank you.
All right. And joining us, special guest. Oh, my God. Burberry, named after our favorite money printer. Thank you for coming in. This is a ton of fun.
I'm happy to be here. I'm very excited. Cannot wait to jump into this.
All right, well, let's get right into it. Our first story is let's meet you, Melissa. Let's go through the Melissa story and figure out what it is you know about NFTs, how you got into this space, and why there's a future here for JPEGs and the like.
Okay, so we'll condense this down to like some sort of elevator pitch for Burr here. I am will always find myself in a male-dominated environment. It started with pool, progressed to poker very quickly. I vastly had an understanding of math early on. Took us to poker. Poker went for a little over a decade, went to the highest stakes poker, mixed games. And actually when the pandemic hit, walking it back, I'm buddies with Mycon. That's where we met all these guys, Brett, whatnot. We were playing some high stakes mixed games on a nice website where we used Bitcoin, and we were playing the old 1 Bitcoin, 2 Bitcoin, Omaha 8 or better. And so that was back in like 2015, maybe 2016 even. No.
Was that Seals with Clubs?
Yeah.
It was. I didn't know if I was allowed to mention the names.
Oh, I don't know if we're not allowed to either. Sorry, Mycon.
I don't know if we were allowed to mention names. I didn't name names. I just played on the site. But anyway, yeah. So that's how we got into crypto. And I like to stay ahead of the curve. And when the pandemic hit, I was kind of getting over poker. And I said, what? We were looking at these JPEGs, and I said, these are stupid. I'm not getting into that. And Deez was in all our groups with DeFi Summer. And even back in like February 20, Deez was like, you got to buy these punks. He was telling Kirk. And I'm like, yeah, we won't be spending that kind of money on some squares. But here we are. Fast forward, in October, I saw this dope-ass project job. It was a text-to-user based collaboration with an artificial intelligence where the user just got to put in a text and the AI generated an image. But up until this point with NFTs, all we saw was a static JPEG where you purchased it and you didn't know what you were going to get. It was like a grab box, and on Mint Day, it was like Christmas. You're like, what did I get? I hope I pull a rare one. But with Epo Labs here, we got to control our fate. So the fate of your value of your JPEG rested in your hands. The other rare thing about Epo Labs is when you input your text, no one else can take it. So I'll give you an example. Brett over here owns the rights to GM. No one else can use GM in the Epo Labs collections 1 and 2. Only he can.
I did it in Epo Heroes too, so I have the GM Epo Hero.
He owns he owns the whole trilogy. Okay, Brett, I see you.
Yeah.
And so now we have 3 collections. You have Eponym Gem 1, which is obviously historical. You are inputting your text into the AI, and you don't mint until you truly fall in love with your piece of art. And that was one of the most unique functionalities that I saw, because you have no one to blame but yourself. If you minted it, of course, at the end of Eponym 1, Eponym, we came across this barrier where, at the end it was like a rush to mint, because there was so much hype surrounding this. It was such a revolutionary idea that you were stuck with what we would call undesirable floor pieces. And around October, Brett had said to me, he was like, what if we could burn 2 of these and get rid of them and burn into a separate collection? And so then the birth of Epistories had come about, which is the second collection for Epilabs. And the barrier to entry to that is you have to sacrifice 2 of the original collection to burn into an Epistory. And an Epistory, you would, as the user, go through the same process of inputting text, but in addition to that, you could add layers to the story and essentially tell an unlimited story, adding layers. And if you look on OpenSea, you have the static image of the art that you rolled, and now you can add layers for the price of 0.02. Since we've honed the processes so much better, we've passed those discounts on to the users. So, I mean, I've been very public about this. I'm head of their strategic growth. The 3rd collection recently dropped called Epo Heroes. Epo Labs as a company understood, and we knew that we had to get into the profile picture market. So Epo Heroes, here we are on the 3rd collection. Same principle, the user input text. So when the mint opened, everyone rushed to Elon Musk so that they could be the ones to own Elon Musk. And we repeat the process except with profile pictures. The beauty of these is that every profile picture has the ability to be re-rolled into a different image. So when you purchase this Epo Hero, if you do not like it or you do not like the name, you can re-roll the image and re-roll the name so long as the name is not in use. One of the great things about this collection, also, every user owns their commercial rights, and we encourage it. We have a link to a separate company where you can print out your eponyms, you can print out your epistories, hang them on the wall, go sell them on the boardwalk. Our Epilabs theoretically can never go to zero, because if you print them all out, you can go sell them at the next store. You own all the rights to your art. Once you create it, it's yours. And that's that way with all 3 collections. So yeah, that's what made me really bullish on it. I approached them to try to work with them. I was hired on initially as an advisor, and fast forward to January 18th, now I'm head of their strategic growth, and I work with them on the timing of their releases and the strategic decision making with them.
I just want to chime in. Eponym, the whole set, Epo Labs, it's really cool. Playing with the generator, it on the Epo Heroes especially, it's crazy how accurate the words to image were. Like, you would type in vampire and you're gonna get like a Dracula looking guy. It's pretty cool. I think that it's new, right? It hasn't really been done before. And I think it's the kind of thing that once people get the hang of playing with that generator, it's kind of like art blocks where you get to influence the piece that's minted. And so I think that this is the kind of thing that people really are going to enjoy the minting process here. They got obviously more stuff coming. So okay. I like this project a lot.
Here's my question. Now, I did enjoy that minting process. In fact, I found it totally addicting. Just putting in new words, trying to come up with different ideas and thoughts. I was trying to get it to look like someone I know. But my question is, once I came close and I came up with the properties, like an evil assassin, had a few details about, I'm not sure where I saw it, but I thought some like attributes were rolled for this character. But my question is, all right, we've got the art, we can get it printed up, but there was some sort of vague process on the other side of this where these characters would be featured in a game or be useful in the metaverse somehow, or what? Is there a roadmap like that, or is this just a fun project and we're on to the next NFT? What's that look like?
Wow, Tony just came with some fire questions today. So
sure did.
So if you'll notice, there are properties that populated. They are on-chain attributes. And the difference between on-chain attributes and just flat-out metadata properties would be akin to loot. The reasons for these being on-chain is for the sole purpose for them to be game ready. So all of our epic heroes are game ready. Those properties can be used to be played in the sandbox in an NFT world in possibly a future game that we put out. We have not formally said what they will or can be used for, but we have officially said that they are game ready to go.
Okay. Well, I mean, I could see these things really taking off if some game is built around them and it's robust and it has a lot of interaction and really brings these characters to life. I mean, the sky's the limit for this kind of thing.
Because you can re-roll your character too. Like if you buy one off the floor, you can change name and image, right? Until you, so that to me really benefits, you know, the secondary market of the collection. Like the stats would stay the same, but you can, you know, like that guy in the middle there, you could have a woman, you know, Tony's wife or something, if that's what you want.
Well, do you have a picture of Isabella? Because I would like to see a side by side. Tony spent
I don't have
an
one now.
insane amount of time designing this, and it looks a lot like her, and it's pretty incredible. You know, and I ended up minting 10 of these, and they were incredibly fun to interact with. I obviously echo everything that everybody has said in the sense that the process was so addicting and the creativity was just flowing, right? So like I wanted to have one of each class. I wanted to have, you know, a couple different styles. I wanted to have both men and women. You know, I wanted to have good and bad characters. And so, you know, it just became the process of like, what is the next idea of something that could be cool to design with this AI? And to me, it was a really easy sell for me because, you know, at that time, particularly in the market, you know, there was a little bit of gas issues, if I recall. But at the same time, I didn't give a shit. I saw the upside. It was an easy sell for me. Now, is this going to take a little time? Of course. So they're all going to take a little time. But from what I've seen, this just seemed like a lot of fun and something I was going to tail pretty quickly.
That was something we found out earlier in the process with Epilabs, that the magic behind the project was bottling up that experience of using our AI. That experience, when everyone loved it, to sit down, when you really think about it, you're not just pressing a mint button, but to actually sit down and generate your own art. People that are incapable of drawing stick figures got to be an artist. And we soon realized that was the product. We were selling an experience. And now EL, one of the devs, and Ben, these are incredibly smart individuals, built in all of these mechanics where you can re-roll them and personalize them and constantly have them evolve to what you want them to be. You bought an Epo Hero, in theory, you would change them every season if you want them to look different. You could have Christmas Tony, you could have Halloween Tony, you could have whatever Tony you want, you know? So, you know, and we have a lot of things on the horizon for a bigger picture, and we're just constantly trying to build towards that strategy. And I'm at the head of the wheel, so who knows what will happen.
Right on. Well, I could talk your ear off all day about this. I loved the process. Very exciting with what AI is becoming capable of as far as generating art. But we need to move on. I'd like to talk a little bit about, looks like we've got some Bored Ape land sales coming. We've got Yuga Labs doing a major purchase of CryptoPunks and Meebits. So, Brett, what's the story here? I've caught just a little bit of this, but I'd like to know the underlying part.
Yeah, so last week was the Bored Ape buying CryptoPunks and Meebits. It's definitely old news now, but we mentioned it just to show that they're making these huge plans. Yesterday, their pitch deck leaked with essentially that they were going to do this land sale, potentially raising like $400 million is what they're 440, I think, estimated revenue. And I'm not positive if that was let's see, that's projected revenue for this year. So that would include secondary sales. That would include this land sale. So some people were like, oh, they're going to sell land for, I think it's 2 plots of 100,000 or two different waves. So 200,000. So people are like, oh, that's going to be an ETH. But if you count in secondary sales, it might be like 0.4, 0.5 for this land. But they're going for it all, right? They bought punks, which I never thought would happen, and Meebits, which whatever, but they bought them, part of the punks deal. They're now going after land, right? Where Sandbox is valued at like $10 billion. Decentraland is really high. So the metaverse land is a lucrative category that, might worry those guys a bit, because Yuga Labs has been really impressive in terms of their executing. I personally am like bearish on expensive metaverse land. I think it's too early to be like anointing the winners. Like Sandbox isn't even live really, right? Decentraland, it works, but it's like, I'm not firing 7 figures into Decentraland.
A lot of
land.
risk in those for sure.
I think like whoever is going to be a winner in metaverse land 5 years from now, that project may not even exist. So if I were to play this like Yuga sale, like I'll see what they come out with. I don't really plan to be in there long term. I know their brand is really strong, but it's not going to be cheap. So if I do try and get some, I'd probably be looking to flip it more than like become a land baron over in the Bored Ape ecosystem. I think that either get in cheap and hold it or get in cheap and flip it. But if I'm not getting in like on the ground floor of these prices, I'm not going to chase this. But they got the token coming too. They got the game that, everybody's got game. But like they've got infinite money, right? They're doing a equity deal. Plus they're going to do this land sale. Plus they've got all this. They've made over 100 million between mutant sales and secondary. This is a juggernaut that's really firing on all cylinders. And they have big plans, man. They keep expanding out. And I don't know, man. What do you think about these guys, Melissa, and the land sale particularly?
So like I'm contrarian when it comes to these things. When everyone's really happy about stuff, I'm always trying to examine it from a contrarian lens. And the only thing I worry about is them becoming kind of this monopoly. And maybe that's just like salt because I paper handed, like I had an opportunity to buy 2 different types of apes and we chose the wrong one at the time. But no, I do worry about that because like if Yuga just becomes this company that just like everybody aspires to be in, and then we start boxing out these smaller companies, like, and they start up like a storytelling, lore type thing, and it boxes out nuclear nerds, which I don't think is possible because they are who they are. But yeah. I don't want to see that happen, and that's really the only potential downside I can see with all this not hostile, but with all these acquisitions, they are obviously going to come out number one. I don't want to see the one-of-one artists and everything else fall to the wayside, and Web 3 just becomes this version of Web 2.1 when really it wasn't meant to be that, right? And that's kind of how this is starting to unfold. That's my only reservations I have about this.
Well, that 400 million, right, for the land sales, that's got to come from somewhere. People are going to be selling their other NFTs to be able to afford this land for the Bored Apes. So it could be bad for some of these other projects.
It's all happening like very fast. We didn't expect something like these acquisitions to come so fast, but I mean, it's the NFT world. Like, 1 week is a month in this land, but it's just happening so fast. And if we don't slow down to examine it from different levels, before we know it, they're the next Google, and before we know it, we're just all using Yuga Lab stuff, and we're going to look back on this conversation and say we should have stopped and looked at this. But
and they're raising VC money too, right? So that they're beholden to those investors to some much more than just I bought a picture of an ape. Like that doesn't give me any rights. Like there's legal rights that the investors now have in that company. There's legal responsibilities that Yuga Labs has to do right by those investors that the buyers of the JPEGs don't really share that same priority. So we'll see how that goes.
They haven't really been clear they haven't really clearly defined the rights of the customers, and we don't know all of the details of how they're going to play out. And like, you want to hope that they're going to stay true to the core principles, this, that, and the other. And I want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but I want to see what the concrete deals are between the customers and the company. But I mean, everything's working at such an accelerated pace. It's almost like they're trying to get all of it through as soon as possible. And then before you know it, it's just going to be Yuga Labs everywhere. So I don't know. That's my only reservation there.
Interesting. Well, I've spent maybe 20 minutes in the metaverse on a browser, and the animation was kind of janky. I stopped by a poker room, and it was definitely for whales. So my little weenie MetaMask wasn't gonna get me to some of the cooler places. So I mean, I see all the potential there, but right now it does, like you said, Brett, feel a little early on some of this stuff. But what do I know? Maybe this is a land grab. My only thing is, if this is a land grab, what's to stop someone else from just launching another metaverse, another bunch of land to
I think
go
that's
grab?
very possible. That not only is that possible, but it's probable at this point, right? So if you have a token access, you can have your own metaverse, and everyone has an Oculus or whatever. They're going to be able to connect in with this, public key, more or less, this token, and go into places and interact with these digital experiences at however plug and play they want. It's not like Disney World in Orlando, where it has a certain amount of real estate and there's limited by a certain amount of tourists, and you can build Universal Studios and SeaWorld around it. But this is the metaverse. This is trying to capitalize on people that are sitting in their house at their desks, at their computers, in their chairs. This is quite literally infinite, and they can literally invent an infinite number of real estate spaces and an infinite number of different things. This is like the multiverse, more or less. We're exporting our lives into digital worlds.
Wow, that's very deep, very exciting. We could go another 20 minutes on that
This
philosophically. But let's move on. Let's keep it light here. Man, I'm spiraling into an existential crisis now. Thanks a lot, Michael. Okay. All right. This was interesting. A story of how Larva Labs, the creators of CryptoPunks, hit a secret NFT prize almost a year ago, and how a couple of friends and Andrew here recently solved the puzzle to claim it. Well, now, Michael, I think this was the story you brought for us to look at. Can you run us through some of the details here?
No, this story was super cool because I like, one of the things about crypto in general is that it goes back to the cypherpunks and like the actual encryption part. Encryption is just a puzzle. It's a translation. It's a language. It's just a game, right? If you have the encrypted key, then you can unreveal the message that's behind it, right? So this is a story of I guess it's a company or protocol or something. They were launching an NFT series of 20 artists, and everything was completely not revealed. So what you see on the screen here is this is the 11th one of the 20 that were posted. Now, nobody knew anything about this, but it ended up after the reveal, basically after the minting was finished. This was produced by Larva Labs. One of their projects is called, I believe it's called Autoglyphs. Is that how you guys say it?
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
this was one experiment from the Autoglyphs project. And so that made this wildly popular compared to the other mints. And it wasn't until later on somebody zoomed in very deeply on one of these bends and one of these curves that they found a little bit of a message. So if Tony, you're able to bring this up, you'll see here there's the bends in the lines, but there's this whole collection of like little dots or L-shaped shapes that are sitting there. Somebody in a random Discord was like, I wonder if these L's mean anything. So as they zoomed in, they discovered that if he wrote a script to interpret what they meant, they were in some sort of 256 degree shape, which meant that they were able to be translated into this ASIC2 language. So what he then decides to do is basically, just trying to unencrypt this message. He reveals the secret message is, open quote, secret is in the pig numbers. Okay, so he gets this wild clue that the secret is in the pig numbers. Now he has to figure out what to do with that. Okay, so eventually they land on, okay, Meebits have a collection of pigs. So what do they do with now that they've landed on the next clue of Meebits pigs, what do they do with this? So I'm going to list a couple of things that they experimented with that I have no clue what any of this means, but this just shows you the level of sophistication going on. They considered something called Mod 2, intervals between IDs, more ASIC 2, Base 32, Caesar ciphers, and probably some other stuff that I don't know anything about. It wasn't until they looked at 64 of the pig Meebits that were wearing basketball or sports jerseys of some sorts that they used the 64 numbers off of all the jerseys and translated that and got basically an Ethereum private key. More or less. They eventually found it to be an Ethereum private key, which they just went and tried to unlock a wallet. It worked perfectly. Inside that wallet, it had 2.5% of an ETH. So kind of a low ETH prize, but there was also a Meebits pig inside that wallet. So there was just a which now is actually pumped recently, which is kind of nice. So, they got a nice little bounty prize of what I'm adding up to about probably 5 ETH worth of stuff, and good for them. They didn't have to do that. It was just a Easter egg that nobody knew about until somebody discovered it, and they put in the time and the effort, and they got the prize. I think that's cool.
Incredible. Oh my God. I did mention I was going through an existential crisis, and then you dropped this sort of stuff on me too. I mean, all right, we're just one topic a day from now on.
These guys are clever. Obviously, Larva Labs. Meebits might be the biggest rug in the space. I mean, it's not technically a rug, but they raised $80 million. They did nothing at all in a year, and then they sold them for even more money. So they basically raised money twice. Like, I'm just saying, people kind of like, oh, Larva gets this pass. They did nothing in a year.
There's a reason I stayed off them this whole time, right?
They nothing,
were accessible.
Then sell them again and get even more money out of it. I've never touched Meebits either. To me, they're horrific. But some people like them.
They're not the only project they did this with. My buddy Ark, who dropped a derivative, which was a derivative of a Bored Ape, but they were apes stapled to boards, clever different boards like checkerboards or chess boards. It was surfboards. He actually hid on a bulletin board a seed phrase. And you didn't even have to buy the ape. You could just spot the seed phrase on the bulletin board if you unlocked that wallet, which was live, held an ape. And it was within the project. Once he dropped it right onto OpenSea, when he minted it, if you found it, you got that ape. So I'm hoping to see some more projects get a little creative like this. I like these little Easter eggs, and Ark is definitely one of my buddies, obviously too, but very sharp. And when projects do smart things like this, I like it. Unfortunately, this is Meebits. I'm only just gonna say that it was very smart of them to double sell their project that was not popular. They double dipped them hard, and kudos for them for getting away with it.
They got the bag, man. But there's another project I like, Seekers, which is all about puzzles, and so he does these cool things with the NFTs, and you can solve ciphers and puzzles, and even built like a game, like an old school point and click computer game. So there's a lot of use cases for like puzzles and treasure hunts and cool things that I think we're just kind of scratching the surface of in NFTs. So cool times.
All right. Well, this is all pretty exciting stuff, but we are running out of time for our episode today, so I do want to take us to our not investment advice, do your own research, NFT Mania pick of the day. We don't have a really cool transition for this yet, but it does bring us to, before we get to them, I want to show you our sponsors. Please visit Mindac. Please talk to Crypto IQ to get your cryptocurrency to work for you. Brett's running Blitzpick. And of course, if you're really into NFTs and you want to go get some NFT history, the rarest of rare Pepes are being sold on the Metaverse right now by the drippiest of JPEG salesmen, our very own Brian Micon, over at /rare Pepe dealer at OpenSea. Go check them out, please. Now, we've got some great NFT picks. Michael, let's start with yours. What are we looking at today?
So recently I got into X2Y2, the NFT, the competitor for OpenSea and LooksRare. It's a exchange. However, they have a massive dump off in their rewards coming tomorrow. And I decided to get out at 25 cents. And I think that there's a chance this drops to 10 cents or less in the next few days, in which case I will be re-entering at that time.
All right. Love it. I've been hearing a lot about X2Y2. I like some of these exchange projects coming along to give OpenSea a run for their money. OpenSea's fine, but that's for another episode. Okay. Brett Richey, what have you got for us?
I'm going to rock with the Wicked Craniums. This has long been one of my favorite projects in NFTs. They've sort of been relatively flat a long time. They're at 0.18 right now, which is actually up. They were at 0.11 last week. They actually tripled in a day. There was rumors, like it was a pretty far-fetched rumor, but like if you looked at the Bored Ape teaser, if you kind of squinted, it looked like there might be a cranium in the picture. So they ran up. It's actually held up. Usually it just would fall back down. It's actually held up pretty solid. There's been, a few sales like 1 to 2.5 ETH in the last day in this collection. This is not like a short-term flip, but this is a legit team. They have good devs. They have partnerships with some bands in the music industry. They haven't really gotten a lot of love on the secondary market through the life of their project, but they're committed. They're still shipping, and this is like, if you want to bet on a sort of like longer term time frame, it's a cheap entry point. I like this. I like this a lot. So it's not a short term play. It's not even like a low risk play, but it's something I like. The craniums.
All right, and Melissa, I bet you got a banger for us today. What do we got?
I do. I'm going to give you the project I'm hypest about, my nuclear nerds. So I stumbled on this project basically from day one. And the most interesting thing that drew me to this project was the community. Basically, the first 2,000 people that got into their Discord, and this was before whitelists were just the way to do things. But the first 2,000 people that got into their Discord got on their whitelist. And as soon as I heard this, I texted Brett, Eric, everyone I knew. I was like, get in this Discord. I'm not really sure what this is about, but just get in their Discord and get in the whitelist. And so we all got in the Discord. So then I found out, then I get in the Discord, the people are chill. I love the people. They're great. And then the more I learn about this project, I find out this idea that's blew my mind. It was like, curate a community first and then show them what you can do and let the community sell the product, right? So you have this team of nerds who are just the most dedicated people to a project that I've seen from a community of engineers, smart people. On top of it, DC and Hot Shave being like two of the most creative minds I've seen in the space. My principles lie within the people that are involved in the projects. Then you add in a dynamic person like Simon, who is out there, championing Web3, and you add in Chase, who is this like giga-brain smart contract writer. I minted 10 of these in batches of 10. I think it was like $95 to mint these. I was like, this is going to be a home run, no problem. I went off the reservation. I was like, 35, lock it up. We're buying all of them. And then I got COVID and I just added more in. So I'm watching this project evolve, and like the more I hear about it, the more I'm sold. The core principle behind this is they're telling a story, and they're telling the story with the total community. During this time, the community, they're sending out prompts, and then the community writes what their understanding of the prompt is, and they're answering it, and then the community will vote. So the community is writing the story together. And the one line that always resonated with me was, the people who write fan fiction are not the people who make money from fan fiction, and we're here to change that. So their NFT project is completely surrounded around the fact that they are trying to write a story. Look at this JPEG. Look at this GIF. This is their principle. They want the people who have the most passion for the project to make the most money. And that's what Web3 actually is doing something that cannot be done on Web2 in Web3. So this is their comic cover that they just released by the artist Adam Archer, who is phenomenal. And it doesn't even stop there, because like when you think big picture of a big vision, everyone's like, oh my God, we're gonna have a series on Netflix. But we're just like, when you hear we're so early, we are. This is the comic of the prologue cover that just dropped. On top of that, you have other derivatives and other stories and projects that are branching off. In one of the nerds, there features this Bucky character, which is like this stuffed animal that like gives me nightmares, but he's holding it and they've named it Bucky. The community has just named it Bucky. And now there's a project called Bucky the Butcher that's led by one of the community members that's supported by the project. And it's just like this fantastic community of people that are supporting this project. And Brett can testify, because I've taken him along this journey. I'm like in his ear all the time.
I paper handed my initial mint, though, but I bought back in. I bought back in. I got impatient, and the thing is, so I really like this project too. I've become, certainly recently, big believer in these lore-based projects. Like I'm looking for, the next Marvel, the next J.K. Rowling, the next George R.R. Martin, right? It's very possible that some of these big, universes get started in NFTs now. And so I'm interested, like this team is very sharp, as Melissa pointed out, like their contract was revolutionary at the time. And it's a good project. I don't have enough of these. I only have 3 right now. I would like to get up back to like 10 or something, but we'll see.
They also have a really cool concept that we hadn't seen before and it was dynamic content. They have a series of nerds within their collection that had mystery traits that when you bought them, you didn't know what they had until you looked at the property. And it wasn't until recently, January 20th, one of the traits, the caterpillar traits, began to evolve. And on February 7th, they evolved into this caterpillar nerd. And there are 6 of those. And that's, again, something we hadn't seen with the metadata being ever changing. Like if you go to the properties over here on the chains on the left-hand side, and you go to the traits, you'll see mystery traits. And if you go to the caterpillar, mystery trait right there, and if you drop down to caterpillar, click caterpillar, you'll see that these have evolved from cocoons that were back from, but otherwise before this, they were regular nerds, but you didn't know when they were going to change. You didn't know how they related to the story. So this is a project that keeps you guessing and it keeps that excitement alive. And because of that mystery, you have a community of people that are constantly talking about the project. They're constantly wondering what's next. They've hidden just the right amount of mystery to keep their Discord alive, talking about the nerds, talking about, life in general. And I think that is one of the main components that you need within an NFT project to keep it alive, because you just can't keep talking about the floor price. You need more. And this project, for me, checks every single box that you need to be successful. And I can't buy enough of these. Every time they dip, I just buy them up. It's a no-brainer.
Wow. Very cool, very cool. There's some good picks of the day. We're going to wrap up the show here soon, but Melissa, I got to say, it was you mentioning earlier that you've got these giga brains working on these things. I just got to wonder how much cancer is not getting solved, or how many problems of the world these giga brains are not fixing for us because they're making these amazing JPEGs. But I got to say, they're also cool. This is so intriguing, and we're just going to keep doing this show. So, Melissa, I hope you join us again next Wednesday if you're available. If you're not, that's fine. But I will be back here come hell or high water. And I hope you all join us too. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, make sure that algorithm works in our favor. And we will see you next Wednesday, if there is a next Wednesday. But for now, it is... I got to push the right button. But for now, it is lights out.
I never sleep if I don't have my medicine. I never sleep if I don't have my medicine. I never sleep if I don't have. I never sleep. I never sleep if I don't have my medicine. Time to right the wrong. So your hands in the air if you like the song. If you're going over there, take it twice as long. Last time ain't talking about Tylenol. Oh, I bet you'd like to know. You can come around the way if you're trying to go. If you want to switch lanes for a pot of gold, or a domino, out of control. The usual. Get mad cause I'm looking at your girl. Switch it up. I do it so much louder than everything you've heard. Everybody heard, got the word that the world wasn't turning. Act like you're in a jury. However, turn it where I would turn it. Can't lie like it's Mississippi burning. Don't act like you're in a daze. I imagine to look the other way. Couldn't clear space on my mind. Was afraid of the time. Strobe light flicking the moonlight.